An armed robbery in Detroit, Michigan on June 28, 1995, 22-year-old Wright robbed Gregory Grahan at gunpoint and escaped with his car while fleeing from authorities. Wright slammed into a police cruiser and fired shots, hitting an officer in the arm. A day later, on June 29, Wright was arrested. All I got to say is, I have no remorse for shooting that police officer. He got what he deserved. If I had opportunity to kill him, I kill him now. In court, he's facing charges of armed robbery, carrying a concealed weapon, use of a firearm during a felony. Wright was presented at court for a pre-trial bond hearing. Just as that, Wright granted a bond in the amount of $50,000. Hearing this, Wright made a run for it. 7 officers finally managed to subdue Wright after the scuffle. Judge Bry removed the bond and ordered Wright to remain in custody. The case eventually went to trial, and Wright was sentenced to life in prison. Rye's brazen attempt to escape was a shocking courtroom moment, but how does it compare? Aubrey Trail to spitting your own throat. Stop recording. Like in the case of Aubrey Trail, a murder suspect in Lincoln, Nebraska. Trail was 52 when he murdered Sidney LOF with the help of an accomplice, according to reports. Baye Boswell, Trail's real-life partner, met 24-year-old LOF on Tinder, lured her to their apartment. It was reported that at their residence, TR and Boswell engaged in a violent act against LOF, involving the use of an extension cord, and later took disturbing actions with her remains, using tools they had acquired from a home improvement store. They wrapped her remains in garbage bags and dumped them along a rural road. L's family reported her missing the next day after she failed to show up for work. Trey and Boswell fled the state and posted several videos on social media denying any involvement in Luf's disappearance. Just curious, are we not allowed to tell our side of this? Again, I'm just a criminal, so you're going to believe none of this, and I guess it's really irrelevant. We have apparently murdered this lady. I'm a thief, but I be goddamned, I've never killed anyone in my life. I've never hurt a female in my life, so take that for whatever the hell it's worth. They were arrested in Missouri on November 30, 2017. Charged with first-degree murder and improper disposal of human remains. During interrogation, Trask said that L's death was an accident involved. There was station involved. It was not supposed to go as far as it did, but it did. Music. Well, don't remember why she was late, as she was, because we believe in that position, and because was missing from her, that she will come back quicker. Trail pleaded not guilty to the murder charges but accepted the charges of improper disposal of human remains. During his trial, Trail attempted to take his own life in front of the judge and the jury by slashing his throat with a razor blade he had smuggled into the courtroom. Stop recording. He went on to make a full recovery, and was later found guilty of all charges. On June 9, 2021, Aubrey TR was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He's current on death row at the Nebraska Reception and Treatment Center. TR's shocking attempt to end his own life sent shivers through the courtroom, but how does it compare to jumping off the courthouse balcony? Like in the case of Christopher Clay Rudd. At Christopher Clay Rudd, suspect facing drug charges in Spanish Fork, Utah. Rudd was arrested and presented in court on May 4, 2018, failing to follow through on court order treatment. A handcuffed Rudd suddenly ran out of the courtroom and jumped over a second-floor railing, falling about 20 feet to the ground below. He survived the fall but suffered serious injuries, including a broken leg, a fractured pelvis, and a skull fracture. Rudd was taken to a hospital for treatment and later returned to the court, where he faced additional charges for trying to escape. The motive behind his dramatic leap is unclear, but some speculate that he may have been trying to injure himself to avoid going to jail. Christopher Clay Rudd's leap of faith was truly a dramatic courtroom moment, but how does it compare to having your mouth taped shut? Franklin Williams. In the case of Franklin Williams, a suspect facing multiple charges, including armed robbery and kidnapping in Cleveland, Ohio, Williams had previously pleaded guilty to some of the charges but later withdrew his plea and claimed he was not properly informed about his eligibility for parole. He also cut off his ankle bracelet and fled the state, only to be captured in Nebraska. Williams claimed he had lost his memory after being hit on the head. Yes, sir, I was hidden in the head and I didn't receive no medical treatment. I lost my mind, I lost my memory, I don't even remember me going to a trial. During his trial and sentencing hearings, Williams repeatedly interrupted Judge John Russo. Point, I'm going to hear from your lawyers, and that means zip it, but you not letting me tell going on means zip it right now. You trying to, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Prosecutors and his lawyers, despite being warned to remain silent, so listen, you will get a chance to talk, I'm going to gag you in 1 second. He accused Judge Russo of being biased and unfair, and claimed he was being mistreated by the court system. His constant outbursts led Judge Russo to order his mouth to be taped shut with red duct tape by the deputies in the court chance to speak at me off. Now I'd like you to Mr. Williams, I want to make it real clear, if you spit on attempt to bite or injure any of middies you're going to have a bad day UCLE. On me man, we done underscore that's what it is, we'll go back on the record, Mr. Williams will have a chance to speak. All everything I cited. Williams was later sentenced to 33 years in prison by Judge Patricia Cosgrove, who pointed out that Williams already had a long record, now was being convicted of robbing innocent citizens. I want the world to know. I am not an animal, contrary to what people may think. I am a man saying freedom of speech, no duct tape. I ask today, Your Honor, that I receive the lightest sentence that you can give me, and no, you're not an animal. Mr. Williams, you're a human being, but the question the court has to determine is whether or not you've learned from those mistakes. Williams did not cause any trouble during his second sentencing and only said freedom of speech, no duct tape, before being led out of the courtroom. Speech no duct tape, all right, freedom of speech, no duct tape, with the hashtag. Judge John Russo later apologized for gagging Williams. I apologize for taking that action last week. Williams's gagging was truly an unexpected courtroom moment, but how does it compare to attacking your own lawyer, like in the case of Taylor Shaubes, a murder suspect in Wisconsin? 25-year-old Shaubes engaged in Taylor Shabuziness, a violent incident with 24-year-old Shad Thiat during a drug-influenced encounter, according to reports. Shad faced severe harm involving the use of a metal chain resulting in tragedy consequences. In his mother's basement, Shaubes left behind disturbing evidence, including a severed head and a bucket and various body parts distributed among storage containers. Hold on, right, you mentioned observing the bucket. I guess where in the basement was that located? As you go down the stairs. If you turn to the immediate right, it was at the bottom of the stairs. To the right, was it in pretty close proximity to the stairs? Yes. After you made that observation, what did you do? After I pulled the towel off. Yes. I had Officer Planky come downstairs and just verify we had in fact found a human head in the bucket. Shad's mother stumbled upon the shocking discovery of her son's lifeless head. Shab business confessed to engaging in disturbing activities with Shad's lifeless body for an extended period after the incident. When did you start? Cutting up his body. Wow, like almost right away. I was sucking and cutting at the same time, know what I mean? 'Cause like I don't know, she liked it, I liked it. She was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault during a court appearance. Shaubes shockingly attacked her own lawyer. Stop it man, stop, just stop. He had to be pacified by two court officers. Taylor, it's me, given her actions in court. Shab business was seen wearing a spit hood in her next appearance. Shad's uncle Kelly Theon slammed Shab business, telling her there's no excuse for her cowardly actions. Kelly said he wished death in prison for business and hoped she would meet the same fate as her idol Jeffrey Dahmer. I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idolized Jeffrey Dahmer. Michael Theon's father said he forgave Shab business for what she did to his son and hoped she would use her time in prison to become a better person. Taylor, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for what you done to my son, and yeah, he made a bad choice. And now you have to live with it. He asked Judge Thomas Walsh to allow her to see the streets soon, and I'm going to ask Judge if he can if she can see the streets again sometime. It may not be soon, but I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to the scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you, Judge. Walsh said that this crime offends human decency, it offends human dignity, and it offends the human community. It really does. Taylor S.H. business was later found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The first-degree intentional homicide as a Peter, it's a Class A felony going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision. I believe that's appropriate in light of findings that I've already made. Taylor She business's trial was filled with blood-chilling moments, but how does it compare to a judge being dragged out of court, like in Judge Tra?
Hamilton County, Ohio, ER investigation that they're doing, and again. I'm at the point to say go ahead and indict me, and the whole juvenile court will just be on trial. According to reports in 2014, Hunter used her position as a juvenile court judge to backdate documents and mishandle confidential records to help her brother, who worked as a juvenile court employee. She was convicted and sentenced to 6 months in jail. However, she appealed her conviction and sentence and remained free while the case went through various courts in 2019. Hunter's last appeal was denied by Judge Patrick Dink. The interest of the state and the public in the finality and enforcement of judgments supports the denial of stay of pending appeal. Accordingly, the motion for stay pending appeal is denied. That's by the 6th Circuit Judge Dinkelacre upheld Hunter's previous conviction and sentenced her to 6 months in jail. 6 months in the Hilton County Justice Center. Credit. One-day chaos ensued in the courtroom as Hunter supporters protested her sentencing. Hunter refused to cooper and had to be dragged out of the courtroom by a music applause. Deputy Animal Hunter was released after serving less than 3 months in jail due to overcrowding and good behavior. She, however, lost her law license. She also filed a federal lawsuit against the county and the state, alleging civil rights violations and seeking damages. Her case is still pending. As of 2023, Tracy Hunter's fall from grace was truly a shocking courtroom moment, but how does it compare to lashing out at victims' families, like in the case of Andrew Worth, double murder suspect in Jefferson, Wisconsin on December 6, 2009, Worth shot and killed off-duty police officer Jennifer Leck and her boyfriend Greg Peters outside a bar. According to reports, it all started when Luck grabbed Worth behind on the dance floor. Worth said something to Luck, and Peter came to her defense and confronted Worth outside the bar. Worth claimed he acted in self-defense, saying he saw Greg reach for a gun. Witness Scott Trater said that Luck initially survived and stumbled into the bar asking for help. When Trater got outside, he saw Worth pointing a gun at Greg's head and yelling at him. Worth walked away, and Greg struggled inside, yelled, "You know, call 911. He's got a gun," and then she was standing there for a few minutes and then collapsed, and nobody had even known that she was shot. At that point, War was soon arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Barley was set at $1 million cash. That's when Worth's emotions broke loose and he leaped forward towards the victims' families. He had to be pacified by several court officers. Music Police Chief Jim Wallace was right next to Luck's family when this happened. Worth was later acquitted on 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and convicted on 2 counts of homicide by negligent handling of a dangerous weapon. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Andrew Worth's outburst shocked everyone in court. But how does it compare to being tased in court, like in the case of Kenneth Freeman? Kenneth Freeman, a murder suspect in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2019. Freeman murdered nurse practitioner Kari Bodin in a parking garage, according to reports. He allegedly beat her, dragged her to her car, and drove over her several times. He was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide during his court hearing. Freeman became unruly and started using profanity and insults towards the judge, the prosecutors, and the music victims. Music. I do have reason to believe, that competency is an issue in this case. Well, I have something to say, family. He refused to listen to the judge's orders and continued his rant. Well, I have something to say. The judge then ordered the deputies to use a stun gun on him to stop his behavior. Applause, music applause. Freeman was ordered to stay in a state mental institution after a doctor's report found him competent for trial later in 2020. Freeman was ordered to be committed for life in the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. He was found not guilty because of a mental disease or defect. The tasing of Kenneth Freeman was a hair-raising courtroom moment. But how does it compare to an all-out brawl between the families of the victim and the defendant, like in the case of Frank Delan? Jr. murder suspect in Frank Delan Jr., Houston, Texas. Delan was 19 when he shot and killed his ex-girlfriend, Diamond Alvarez. According to reports, he shot 16-year-old Alvarez 22 times in the chest and left her body in a field after she confronted him about his other relationship. Delon was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide. During the hearing, tensions ran high between the two families. First, Alvarez's mother tried to confront Delon. Then Alvarez's uncle jumped in and punched Delon. Then Delon's mum ran over to defend her. Music son Ilan pleaded guilty and accepted a plea deal for a 45-year sentence. He will have to serve at least half of his sentence before he's eligible for parole. Dacume said that this case was solved within 2 years, which is a record as far as homicide cases go. After the brawl, Alvarez's mother apologized and said she couldn't control her emotions. Diamond's mother telling us it was a difficult decision to make her, 'cause I wanted to be for her to the end. The brawl also led to the escape of another defendant in a separate case who took advantage of the chaos and ran away from the court. He got out of the building. He took off his Anel. The fight between two families is truly one of the most shocking tour moments, but how does it compare to jumping out of a wheelchair, Joel Sanchez, and escaping like the case of Joel Sanchez? Delgado was accused of multiple crimes in Little Rock, Arkansas. Delgado was in jail facing burglary in possession of a firearm charges. He told police that he wasn't feeling well, couldn't feel his legs while being transported to the court. Delgado jumped off his wheelchair, caught a cab, and made a run for it. The officer ran after him, but Delgado gave him the slip a few hours later. Was caught from the other side of town and charged with felony escape, once again in a wheelchair. Delgado's daring escape is one of the most ridiculous courtroom moments